Can you hear the silent turning of the millstone, the heavy breath of 2,000 years ago across the vast fields of endless millet stretching beyond the sight line of the Great Wall? Does the fine dust of the lowest plateau, the yellow earth, settle? Upon your eyelids now a fine layer of ancient sleep waiting down your gaze. We are not chasing emperors or conquering armies tonight. We seek the deeper, quieter rhythm of routineth, measured, predictable sound of boredom elevated to an art form. Simple struggle to make it through one more Han Dynasty day. I'm your host, Najrullah from History Labuim. Tonight we drift back to the slow, steady pulse of ancient China specifically, the quiet, magnificent tedium of the Han Dynasty, a time spanning 4 centuries of repetitive existence. Think of the weight of the bureaucracy, the endless copying of text. Slow scrape of the brush across the bamboo slip, steady measured drip of the water clock mark after tedious mark, we let the stillness of the imperial era wash over US, a deep, soothing quiet born from stability and predictable hardship. Let your mind settle into the patterns of the Han farm earth official, the weaver, the soldier watching the borderlands. The sun rises slowly over the northern plains, a reddish orb burning away the mist of the Yellow River Valley, and we join the household Befra. The cock crows, or the first light truly breaks there, is the scent of dried earth and warming grain, the rough feel of hemp fabric against the skin. We follow the slow, precise movements of the cook, preparing the morning meal, grinding rice in a stone mortar, the rhythmic thudding thud. Thud, thud, hypnotic percussion stretching over centuries. This is the sound of time moving without haste, without drama, without the need for excitement. This is the sound of existence in the great Han world. The great silence of the empire is palpable, punctuated only by the necessary noises of labor. Scrape of the wooden hoe against the hard soil, quiet mending of fishing nets by the riversideth, heavy breathing of the draft animal pulling the plow through the wet. Rice paddy breathe in that stillness, now feel the profound lack of urgency that defined the lives of those. Millions of days were circular. Their expectations minimal, their effort consistent today. It's much like yesterday, and tomorrow will be much like Todaya. Deeply reassuring pattern for your resting mind. Let us walk the dirt road leading toward the market. The air is thick with the scent of dried ginger and fermented soybean paste. The road is dusty dry. The movement is slow. Cart rumbles past the wooden wheels, turning slowly, grinding against the loose pebbles. The sound of the turning wheel is an ancient lullaby sound that has put generation after generation to sleep under the weight of the sky. The monotony of the road, the vastness of the landscape, the unchanging nature of the laboral conspire to draw you deeper into the quiet historical moment. Imagine imperial officials miles away in Chang, sitting upright on low platforms through silk robes, heavy and still. They are contemplating the census figures, the grain yields, the tax rolls. The work is precise, detail-oriented. The official dips the brush in the inkstone. The ink smells of pine soot and glue, heavy sweet aroma that it fills the low ceiling tall. He writes slowly, carefully, deliberately character. A small world unto itself, a small piece of the vast imperial puzzle. The only sound is the nearly silent sweep of the brush across the polished bamboo. Sweet pause, a gentle, steady rhythm. Let that rhythmic sweeping sound clear the cluttered thoughts from your mind. This is not a story of high politics or dramatic battles. This is the deeper documentary of the day-to-day, the deep sigh of the empire settling back into its routines. The great sleep of the Han people. Think of the Han weaver at the loom. The gentle click-clack of the shuttle passing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The repetitive motion, the steady tension, the growing length of the cloth, a lifetime spent creating long, slow stretches of fabric from rough hemp for the peasants to shimmering silk for the court. Each piece of fabric woven through long, quiet hours of focused patience. Click-clack, whoosh, click-clack, whoosh. The sound is mesmerizing, a natural white noise generator, thousands of years old. Let the sound of the Han loom ease the tension in your shoulders. Let your breath match the measured pace of the shuttle. Slow in, slow out, steady and deep. We are sinking further into the lowest soil, deep into the routines of the ancient world. The Han Dynasty perfected the art of endurance, the quiet strength found in repetition. They lived by the solar Clock the agricultural calendar. Their lives dictated by the slow shift of seasons, the necessary planting and harvesting. No sudden changes, no shocking surprises, just the predictable weight of their duties. Feel the weight of a Han era blanket covering. You now a heavy protective presence, 2,000 years of consistent agricultural expectation pressing down this. Is not a frightening weight, it is the weight of history holding you, steady keeping you, anchored in the now. We watch the sun slowly cross. The sky marking time not with bells or shouts, but with the lengthening shadows on the courtyard floor. The shadows stretch and thin and fade. The day slows down to a crawl. Every movement, every task is unhurried, the tending of the small charcoal brazier. The slow pouring of the thin weak wine. The careful sorting of seeds for next spring planting all. Done with the same quiet reverence for the task. Imagine the simple bowl of steaming millet porridge. The warmth rising to meet your face, the simple satisfaction of a task completed, the simple necessity of sustenance. The world shrinks down to the small circle of your own immediate experience. Sound of the evening crickets begins a soft chirping symphony, a sound unchanged by 2 millennia of the water clock. Continues its soft drip, 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 marking the hours of the night watch. The handguard walks the perimeter, his sandals scraping softly on the packed earth path scrape. Scrape, scrape the sound, fading into the darkness, and then returning scrape, scrape. Scrape, a gentle sound of protection and slow movement. We feel the peace of that ancient monotony. Profound, unexciting certainty of life in the imperial heartland. It is time now to close your eyes fully and surrender to the vast stillness of Han. China out the dust of the lowest, settle at the steady scrape of the writing brush, continue in the silent halls of power, let the click-clack of the loom ease the final tensions from your body. Have entered the long peaceful night of history drift. Now drift, now into the quiet enduring sleep of the Han Dynasty. Empire sleeps and you sleep with it, quietly, peacefully, deeply. Left the deep night silence and now we feel the faintest stir. Heavy air of the Han Dynasty bedroom begins to lighten not with a sudden flash, but with a gradual seeping gray, a cold dampness clings to the walls of stamped earth and wood. Dawn is always slow in the central plains, a hesitant reveal, dictated by the slow orbit of the sun. Feel the mat beneath. Yao woven from dried reeds, rough against the thin padinga, slight shift in your position. Rustle of the coarse silk or hemp used for your quilta, sound of ancient walking 1,000. Similar sounds are happening across the dynasty from the high-walled compounds of Chang'an to the simple huts of the fields, a collective gentle sigh as sleep releases its hold. Han morning is not rushed there. Are no bells to clang or rapid signals demanding hasty paces dictated by the rhythm of the body. And the demands of ritual weave the first sound of a wooden pestle far away, perhaps a neighbor semi preparing the early meal, repetitive, heavy. Thud against a mortar, thud through the rhythm designed to soothe, not awaken sharply. Our hands stretch out slowly, feeling the chill in the air. Process of rising from the floor. Mat behind bed is meticulous first. The folding of the heavy sleeping mats and quilts, a task performed with ritualistic precision. These materials must be square to warity, for the deity are not left scatteretti, are symbols of order in a world obsessed with order. Fold one edge over, gently align the corner, perfectly pat down the surface of the quilt, smoothing out every wrinkle. This simple act of neatness is the first tedious duty of the day. It prepares the mind for the bureaucracy and discipline that follows. Light grows stronger, revealing the clay. Oil lamp sputtering low, its light is yellow and smoky. The smell of ancient fuel permeates the room, a soft ancient scent that lingers. Move now to the washing ritual. Basin ready, prepared from the evening before it is cool. Maybe slightly icy to the touch, there is no rapid. Full immersion bath bathing is infrequent, a social event. Morning hygiene is simple, focused on the mouth and the hands first, the teeth not with bristles, but with a piece of rough cloth or a finger, a sprinkle of salt or powdered minerals. Gently rubbed along the gums, so a slow scrape along the tongue to clear the night's thickness. Rinse the mouth slowly, letting the cool water swish spit the water into the basin. Repeat this motion 3 times, a ritual cleansing designed to prepare the face for the ancestor and the official eye. Feeling of cleanliness is simple and immediate. Tenno. The hands dip them into the cool water, rub them together until the stiffness of sleep is goniac, gentle, drying on a small linen. Towel every movement is deliberate. There is no sense of racing against the clock. Time moves slowly here in the Han Dynasty. Stretches out like the long robes we must now put on. The process of dressing is perhaps the most repetitive and time-consuming task. Clothing is layered assigned for modesty and thermal control. Begin with the undergarments of soft fine hemp wool. Then up slowly, feel the slight friction against the skimpton. The main garment, the deep sleeve robe. Bashiniathis is a large piece of cloth wrapped around the body. It requires careful. The collar must overlap exactly right the left side, covering the right over, reverse the right side over the left is the mark of a barbarian, or the dedet is a critical detailsly draw the robe across your chest. Long sleeves hang down. Almost touching the ground, the fabric itself is heavy, a dark indigo or a soft gray, the colors of the ordinary Han citizeno. The sasha, long piece of silk or sturdy cloth, it must be wrapped multiple times around the waist, not too tight to restrict. Breathing not too loose to slip wrap, once smooth, the fabric wrap twice feel. To support, it gives your core wrap 3 times, and then the notice simple secure knot at the citadel. Motion is highly practiced, automatic or forward, every morning of every year. Slow, meticulous tightening of the clothes around your body, a final adjustment to the long, heavy hems were dressed ready to face the light filtering in from the small courtyard. Sound drifts in, faint clatter of bronze tools, a servant or a family. Members now preparing the morning meal. Scent is damp and earthy. At first it transforms you smell of damp millet being boiled slowly. Deep warm aroma of steaming grain begins to fill the house. Move to the central hearth kitchen. In a Han home is a study in efficiency and simplicity. Fire pit or stove is built low. Heat source is usually charcoal or dry grass bundled tightly. Watch. The slow process of building the fiery, a small ember saved from the night before, is carefully coaxed back to life via a gentle blowing of air, not a harsh puff, but a steady stream to encourage the glow. Charcoal catches slowly turning red, then arrange. Heat begins to push back the morning chill. Stove holds a large ceramic pot inside it. Is the morning meal the simple joe or Jithan rice gruel or millet porridge? Staple that provides gentle energy for the long day of labor, or bureaucracy listened to the liquid simmeringa. Low, gentle burlia, constant unchanging sound of domestic. Lifeway stand watching the steam rizia, slow, comforting cloud of moisture. Time it takes for the porridge to soften fully is considerable. 5 minutes, 20 minutes, perhaps more. Eat cannot be rushed. If the grain is hard, the meal is poor. If it is perfectly soft, the stomach will be satisfied. Wait patiently, as waiting is part of the morning meditation. Are contemplating the slow turning of the dynasty's wheel. Food is served simply in small wooden bowls or coarse. Ceramic dishes, no? Elaborate cutlery, just a small spoon or the simple chopstick. Taste is bland, warming, satisfying. A few pickled vegetables might accompany the meal. Salted mustard greens or radishes, providing a sharp counterpoint to slowly, Han believed in. Measured eating, fast consumption was uncivilized. The warmth, savor, the blandness. It is sustenance, not celebration. Silence during the meal is heavy only. The scraping of the wooden spoons against the ceramic bowls, a soft, low sound repeated millions of times across the land. Every dawn scraping, cranks finish. The meal bowls are rinsed immediately and put away. The chores of the morning are repetitive, predictable, slow. If you are a farmer, the tedious work of the fields awaits. Slow hitching of the ox to the wooden plow, feel the rough leather. Yoke against your hands. Slow rhythmic turning of the earth step by step, plow by plow. Dust rising gently in the pale sunlight. If you are a minor official, a scribe, a bureaucrat. Tedious work of paperwork awaits. Heavy wooden desk. The preparation of the writing implements is an art form of slow stick. The ink stick of compressed soot and animal glue. It is hard, cold, heavy. Place it on the rough grinding stone, the ink slabbed. A few drops of water start to grind the stick against the stony. A slow, circular motion. Sound is a gentle, abrasive, rasping, dry. Must grind for several minutes until the ink is thick enough of a perfect consistency. If the ink is too thin, the writing will bleed. If it is too thick, the brush will drag. The process requires focus, patience, a steady hand, a quiet mint. Smell of the freshly ground ink is earthy. Sharp, ancient, it settles the spirit for the day's labor. Brush is selected. Carefully made of fine animal hair, rabbit, or wolf, it is dipped slowly into the prepared ink, capping the excess gently on the side of the stone. First mark on the bamboo strip, or the papra, heavy, slow, steady stroke, characters of the Han script. R. Complex line, each curve must be precise, are recording the endless details of the dynasty tax rolls, land allocation, minor disputes. Grain storage numbers. Numbers are vast. The task is endless. Movement of the brush is soothing, it flows. Across the surface, a gentle whisper of ink against wood or paper. This is the Han morning repetitive, precise, demanding patience. Not speeda, deep, sustained, quiet, tediuma. Slow, deep breath on a slow, deep breath out the sounds of the early Han Dynasty, gently. Enveloped with low rumble of the distant cartwheels, slow, steady grinding of the ink, gentle burble of the cooking militate is a rhythm. Designed for PCA, pace meant to last 1,000 years, let the deep slowness of the Han morning settle. Upon you let the routine, the repetition, the quiet labor guide. You deeper into a state of perfect rest who have completed the tedious transition to daylight, and now we begin the long, long day of the Han world. Light has shifted, sun now climbs. The mud brick walls. Leave the gentle morning rituals behind and turn our gaze toward the daily weight of life. Fee. Hush of the courtyard gives. Way to the low rumble of the street, a slow-moving river of people begins its steady course, heavy carry. Baskets, they carry tools. They carry the burden of the dynasty on their shoulders. Follow them no or drift in this slow processional of Han life. Sandals slap softly against the dusty paths, a rhythm of wood and leather and earth is quiet. March a daily trek to the fields where the millet grows tall and heavier, to the yamen, the district office where the business of bureaucracy slowly turns its wheels. Let's listen to the sounds of work, beginning sounds of the emperor's administration. Creeping to Lifeway, enter the city gate. Its stone is cool, the archway damp. Guard post is quiet save for the low snoring of a soldier whose watch is nearly. Donnie sleeps heavy and deeply. Step past him. We do not disturb his peace. That's streets now. Fill with the steady sound of mortar and pestle. Preparation of food is always rhythmic and slow. Pounding of rice. The pounding of green. Wooden pestle is a moment of silence at the apex, and then the soft thud into the deep stone more art post. It is an ancient metronome set to the pace of hunger and sustenance. Pace is not fast, it is deliberate. It is endless to Duddenton. The inner city courts. The scribes are already awake at these in small rectangular rooms of damp clay. Air smells of wet earth and fresh ink. The are the keepers of the record, the hands of the Han Sitabi, are writing. The census, they are recording the taxes, they are copying ancient texts for the Imperial Library 1,000. Years of learning rests on the tips of their brushes, and we can hear their work. Most soothing sound of imperial responsibility, sound of the inkstone grinding, scribe is adding. Water to the stani, takes the cake of dried ink made from soot and gluing. He begins to grind. It gently against the rough surface of the stone, listen to the whisper of this grinding. It is a hush sound, a scraping that is almost silent. A gentle, repetitive motion around and round. The ink stick moves round, and round it release the deep black liquid. Scribe needs a good puddle of ink before he can start his work, so he grinds slowly. Gring, arm moves in a small, perfect circle. Has done this 10,000 times, he will do it 10,000 more, the weight of the brush handle. In his hand, the brush hair is soft deer or gold. Dips the tip gently into the ink pool, drags the tip carefully against the edge of the stone to remove the excession. Then he begins to writes on bamboo slips tied together with fine quarter. Perhaps he is writing on the newer, more expensive mean paper, which is soft and absorbent. Sound of the brush it is a soft. Whispering across the texture, a wet sound. The rush strokes are careful and precise. Hand characters flow from his mind too. The bamboo and stroke 2, stroke 3, strokes. Scribe is listing grain. The reserve is 100 measures of millet, hair, and 200 measures of wheat. Their names are all written carefully. Numbers are all calculated. Slowly writes his entire day. He writes his entire life away in this quiet, damp room. His concentration is deep. It is the deepest quiet of the Han Dynasty only. The occasional sound of a cough or a shuffle of sandals disturbs the peace heavy. Brush viciously. Work is slow, the work is methodical, air is still and heavy with the weight of history, and the slow drying of the ink would leave the scribe to his necessary tasking. We walk toward the edge of the town where industry is less about ink and more about earth. Can hear the looms now, clacking the shuttle, moving back and forth. This is the silk workshop sick, the great export of this. Emperor, the fibers are fine, the work is precious and tiring. The women sit at the looms, the wooden frame is tall, and solid. The threads are carefully spunt. Shuttle flies across the warp and weft. Click, clack, clack. Shuttle hits the frame. Weaver pushes the beater bar down to tighten the rows. Hud clack. Tack clack is a sound of endrancy, a sound of repetitive. Labor that requires focus and stamina. Patterns they weave are complex and geometric. They are creating the dragon robes, the courtly garments, silk that will travel west along the long road. Loom is loud, but its rhythm is comforting. It is a machine of repetition, a sound of consistency. Weavers work with hands that move faster than our eyes can follow. Shuttle appears, then vanishes. Clack. Clack, clack, they speak little. Of the numbers, slow scratch of the brush, endless counting, complete absence of urgency. Great weight of the Han Dynasty rests on the shoulders of these quiet, repetitive acts and their stillness. Their routine, their predictabilities, the lullaby that safeguards the sleep of millions drift with the dust motes and the dim light follow. The slow movements of Master Li's steady hand. Weight of the empire is heavy, but its movement is slow. Feel the coolness of the earth, dry, ancient scent. Of the bamboo archivist, a perfect environment for deep resto world governed by the number and the record. He finishes another set of slips, sighs very softly, a barely audible exhalation of tiredness, but of completion of a small task perfectly executed. Adjusts his posture with rustle of his thick hemp robes against the mata, sound like dry grass in a light breeze. Takes a sip of cool, unsweetened water from a clay cup. Only break in the monotonia, moment of stillness bare. The counting begins. Once more schlup goes the brush as it finds the ink. The scribe returns to his numbers. Endless task of maintaining order, of measuring the vastness of the land with tiny, meticulous strokes. Let this deep, steady rhythm, this absolute certainty of procedure glide you deeper into your own, still deeper into your quiet sleep. The Han is counting, and the count is always slow, is precise, always predictable. 2. Midday shadows creep across the threshold. Now the sun has reached its zenith and begun its gentle arc downward, a small relief of heat perhaps, but the work of the Han state never rests. Leave the dusty fields and open markets and drift now into the cool, quiet stone halls. Sanctuary of bureaucrats is where the true weight of the Han Dynasty least not in its armies or its emperor's face, but in the silent, unending labor of its scribes, its record keeper sits. Managers of the infinite list breadth deeply now take in the scent of dusted bamboo and ground pine soot. Inctus is the Yamanfe. Government officia place of low voices and meticulous measure of the air inside is thick with the effort of counting off. Checking off, comparing one roll of bamboo against another Meijin, the sound is not the roar of a furnace center, the chatter of the tea. Housei is the sound of scraping, the almost silent scrape of the Mio stone, where the dry stick of pine soot ink is ground. Slowly back and forth water is added drop by careful drop, creating the deep black fluid, very lifeblood of the Han records. This grinding is a rhythm of patience, a measure of focus. Grinding, grow low, gritty whisper against the still night is the sound of time. Slowed to the pace of state business, pace of eternity. Close your eyes and hear that slightly damp grinding noise. Scribe sits low at a table. His back, straight from years of rigid training, is surrounded by bamboo thousands. Upon thousands of bamboo slips, slivers of wood are bamboo, one meticulously prepared and carefully. Inscribed this is paper before paper. This is the database of an empire. Each slip is about a finger width wide, perhaps a foot or more in length. Scribe holds his brush, the hair tip dipped in the freshly ground dark ink. His hand moves with a steady grass. Writes in tight vertical columns from top to bottom, from right to left. characters appear like tiny black marks against the pale wood their attacks. Records they are census figures, they are judgments and decrees, they are the account of a farmer's. Harvest they are the weight of grain in the imperial silicate slip. Must dry before it is drilled a tiny hole at the top and the bottom of the wood thin. Carefully strung together 100 slips per roll, perhaps tied with hemp or silk cord creating. A flexible scrawler book that feels like a carpet of wood imaging handling these rolls. Now the weight of them, the dry rustle as they are, unrolled across the low table. Scribe is not hurried speed, is the enemy of accuracy. Accuracy is the foundation of Behan Order. Breathes deeply and slowly. Airs still only the tiny sound of the brush on the wood. Breaks the silence. Brush. Her. Glidessa. Whisper of wet ink on dry fiber glide. Glide. He's checking the census from 5 years ago comparing. The head count against the current return. Ensuring that every soul is accounted for every soul is a potential source of labora. Potential source of tax revenue. This is the essence of Han efficiency, and efficiency built on absolute tedium. Endless. Repetition of counting off, recording off, rechecking. Han's slip is filleted. He sets IT aside carefully to dry his black ink, absorbing. Into the pale surface he picks up the next blank slip. Smooth, cool texture of the fresh bamboo in his hand. New starter. New line of figure as a new family registered in the vast imperial machine breath. With the scribe now in deep out slow, his focus is absolutist. Movements are minimal, the only energy expended is the slow drawing of the character's writing of the name. Of a village lost in the dust. Recording of a birth of a child who will one day pay the silk tax. Quiet. Weight of history is held herein, these bound bundles of bamboo, these simple rolls of woody text when he needs. To refer to an old document, must walk to the archive, a dimly lit chamber high with shelf-seek shelf, filled with more rolls, thousands upon thousands of tempted, labeled, and waiting. Must search through the labels, spell out the heavy raw and wind, IT, carefully on the ground. A long desk searching, lined by linens, there is nitrogen monoxide search function. Or rather is only human patience in me. The steady unrolling of the past, sound of the bamboo. Rolls unwinding a dry rattle, a soft clacking it, is the voice of the hand stake weight, but immensely. Present air in the archive smells different, itself has been baked into the fibers of the wood. Finds his refer any entry about land ownership, notes IT on his current slip. Then he must re-roll the ancient documents slow. Tightly, carefully, and replace IT exactly where it was found. This process is not quick. This process is measured in hours. The weight of the bamboo is significant. A single large administrative roll could weigh several pounds, perhaps the weight of a small brick-a-magine carrying that weight of information. Weight of the law returns to his table. Sunlight has shifted further, casting long angular shadows across the courtyard. Outside, but inside the Yemen IT is always the same temperate light. Light of endless work resumes the grinding of the Inca, fresh dose of blackness needed for the afternoon work. Grinding. Quiet vibration of the stone in the stillness are lost now in the sheer scale of the Han administrative. Effort it was the first civilization to perfect. This level of detailed control, everything was written down. Everything was record depth there. Was nitrogen monoxide escape from the bamboo archive? Kept track of familia fled off soldier movements of local disputes over water rights, and all of it reduced to these tiny black characters and these pale strips of bamboo. Scribe is the gatekeeper. Silent hand that moves the machine. His day is a series of these repetitive axe grinding, ink writing characters rolling. And unrolling record his meal will be simply and quickly at his desk. Perhaps a small bowl of millet or rice, perhaps. Some pickled vegetable does not linger. The work awaits. The infinite list must be tended. Quiet Yemen is a place of monastic dedication, a lullaby of legislation, a deep breath of decree. The sound of the brush moving over the bamboo pole. Your attention downward, now downward, into the soft darkness of deep focused, steady hand of the scribe. Continuous flow of the ink. Gentle rustle of the slips is counting the number of plows in one district, is calculating the tax due on silk production in another. Numbers flow like a slow river, implacable is beginning to grow heavy again outside. Afternoon heat pressing down upon the capital city, but we remain here in the cool shadows of the archive safe in the quiet hum of bureaucratic precision that demands complete stillness, coupled dedication to the tasks scribe adjusts. His chair makes a faint creak, a very small sound in the vast room, thin silence. Againly, the brushingly, the breathingly, the long steady count of the Han Empire, the rolls of bamboo. Stand tall on the shelves each one, a sleeping giant of information, each one holding the secrets of the pasta list of every toolery, but every person are waiting to be unrolled, again to be checked. Again to be filed, again an endless cycle of state care drift into that quiet rhythm, now silence of the Han administration, slow grinding of the Mio stone, scrape of the ink brush, gentle weight of the wooden records. Let it pull you downward into a place ordered. Rest the deep quiet PE, ethy heavy, midday sun crests the ridge of the roof. Tile now casting sharp dark shadows into the courtyard space. Air itself seems to thicken and slow after the hurried consumption of the bean soup and the rough Milikikiza quietness settles over the provincial officia, profound silence broken. Only by the distant lazy chirrup of a summer insect would drift now from the necessity of the noon meal into the deep deliberate tedium of the Han Dynasty afternoon tea. Time when the mind must conquer the desire to restand, embrace the slow steady rhythm of administration, rhythm of tallies and scrolls. Official known as Master Ling gently pushes away his low lacquer tray. Residual warmth of the sun-baked earth seeping up through the woven mats, making the eyelids feel heavy and prone to folding. Shut, but the Emperor's work does not pause for a nap even, though the heat begs for stillness. Master Lin stands and walks slowly, his thick hemp robes rustling softly, a dry whisper against the quiet air, moves toward the inner chamber of the records. A ficeth heart of the province's economic life, this is where the wealth of the Han is accounted for. Grain, silk, bronze coin, and labor horse, everything must be. This moment of stillness, unmoving, uncheckable, perfectly secure, the waves below are pulling you downward, gently, steadily into the deepest sleep. The deep, low rumble is the sound of absolute certainty. The earth is here, the water is here, the fire is here, and you are centered between them, all protected by the wooden cabin. Listen to the rhythm of the crash. 1, 2, 3, pull back, pause, gather strength. 1, 2, 3. The rhythm is slow, predictable, entirely relaxing. The light from the fire is beginning to dim now, truly dimming, as the main log collapses inward into a pile of red-hot coals. The orange glow is softer, more diffused, painting the room in deep russet and sepia tones. The shadows grow longer, softer, more ambiguous they are. Friendly shadows, they pose nitrogen monoxide threat. They are just the absence of light, shaped by the lingering heat. Your eyes are closing. Now, without effort, without decision, they simply drift shut, settling into the comforting darkness behind your lids. You can still see the image of the red coals burning bright red, persisting right behind your closed eyes, a deep internal warmth, a visual reminder of safety. The sound of the storm is muffled, now distant, yet persistent, the roar of the wind, the shriek around. The corners, they are all fading into a soft background, hum, a white noise of wind, a low continuous sound, and beneath the hum, the ever-present beat of the sea. Deep, low, powerful, hypnotic, you are drifting, gently now suspended between the surface of waking and the depth of sleep. The weighted blanket is your anchor, holding you steady. As you drift, feel the small, tiny movements of the cabin as the wind presses against it. A subtle sway, a gentle vibration of it is a motion that rocks you, a natural lullaby of the structure. The smell of the smoke is sweeter, now softer, mellower, as the wood turns to final ash, a perfect earthy finish to the burning. The air is thick with the scent of deep forests and ancient ocean. You are wrapped in nature's oldest comforts. The waves crash closer. Perhaps the tide is rising higher, now reaching for the base of the cliff. The sound is richer, fuller, more profound, a majestic sound, a deep rumbling sleep sound. Rumble, crash, boom, pull back, sigh. The pressure on your body is easing, your mind is quiet. There are nitrogen monoxide, more thoughts, only sensations. The warmth, the weight, the sound, the smell, all sensory inputs are blending, merging into one deep, smooth, uninterrupted flow. You are entirely relaxed, entirely safe. The weighted blanket is the final layer of protection. It keeps the cold out. It keeps the worries in it, holds your heavy limbs still and quiet. You are melting into the mattress, dissolving into the warmth. The fire is almost silent now. Only the softest hiss of cooling metal from the grate, the red glow is sinking lower into the hearth. The storm outside is a constant hum, a continuous backdrop for your rest. The wind is not frightening. It is simply a vast, powerful force ensuring the cabin's perfect solitude. The roar of the wind is a guardian ensuring nitrogen monoxide disturbance. The sound of the sea is your metronome marking the time slowly. Deliberately toward deep sleep, you are breathing slow and shallow, deeper and quieter. The weight of the world is lifted, replaced by the weight of the blanket secure. Cradled, held, let the sound of the deep, relentless sea wash away the last lingering awareness, the deep rumble, the rhythmic crash. You are sinking deeper into the soft, heavy mattress, deeper into the warmth of the cabin, deeper into the midnight hour, midnight at the coastal cabin. Secure, safe, sleeping, soundly the rhythm of the waves. The hiss of the retreat, the warmth of the fire, the weight of the blanket, all holding you all. Protecting you all, guiding you now into the deepest, profoundest rest. Sleep, now sleep. Deeply sleep, soundly let the storm howl. Let the waves crash. You are safe, you are warm, you are entirely secure. The pressure is steady. The warmth is constant. The sound is hypnotic, sinking, drifting, sleeping, and then now deep sleep. The coastal storm wraps you in sound. The cabin wraps you in warmth. Nothing else exists, only this moment of profound peace. Rest now. Rest well. Rest completely in the safety of the Midnight Cabin. Story 3. The journey begins with a breath, a slow, gentle release of air into the quiet space around you. The air is already cool and soft against your skin, a deep resting feeling. Starts in your feet. You are moving slowly toward hidden place, a place where time itself slows down to a crawl, a place of deep relaxation and stillness. You walk upon a carpet of silence. Moss grows only in the places that hold secrets. It is a cushion of emerald and sapphire light every step. You take is muffled and soundless. There is nitrogen monoxide. Crunch, nitrogen monoxide, rustle, nitrogen. Now the feeling of sinking gently into the soft earth, sinking deeper and softer with every intentional breath. The forest around you is the forest of whispering glow, not sunlight, not moonbeam, but an internal light. The trees themselves are woven from pale silver thread. The bark shimmers faintly like polished pearl. Leaves are translucent panes holding trapped starlight. Knee sparkles drift down from the canopy, falling like slow snow onto the path you follow. You are the only traveler here, and your purpose is simply to rest, to observe, to become completely still. Your breathing is even slow, deep, and held. Peace, exhale. Everything else, inhale. Softness, exhale. Tension. The trees grow closer now, forming a gentle protective while you feel a change in the atmosphere. A sudden wash of warmth, a delicate shift in the air. Pressure, something perfectly still. Something perfectly magical lies ahead through a gap in the weaving. Silver branches, you see a secret greenhouse of stardust. It stands like a perfect bubble of flawless ancient glass. It is a dome of pure clarity, reflecting the faint glow of the forest back upon itself. It is immense yet delicate, like a giant dewdrop. Placed softly upon the earth, the glass walls are curved, smooth, unbroken. They hold a light that is softer, purer than the light. Outside, a pale lavender haze drifts within the structure. It is an invitation, a welcome, a promise of profound calm. You approach the glass slowly. Your hand rises toward the surface. The glass is warm, surprisingly warm. It vibrates with a very faint humming sound, a sound too low for the ear to truly register, but felt deeply within the chest. You find the entrance. There is nitrogen monoxide door. Only a shimmering veil of golden mist dew stepped through the mist, and the moment you cross the threshold, everything changes. The external world dissolves completely. There is only this space. Air is thick and sweet. It is infused with the scent of calm lavender and delicate vanilla. Mist is warm, gentle, enveloping it. Settles on your skin like the finest silk. Your muscles immediately begin to release their hold. You look around. The secret greenhouse is not merely a room, it is a sanctuary. Built for ultimate rest. In the very center, awaiting you, an armchair. It is wide, luxurious, deep. It is upholstered in velvet of the deepest Midnight blue, yeah. Blue so dark it seems to absorb all sound and movement. You walk toward the cherry stepness. Slower, lighter than the last. Floor beneath your feet is smooth, cool, polished, stone, engraved with faint swirling patterns that catch the lavender. Light, you reach the velvet armchair and you sink into it with velvet cushions yield. Completely too. Your waist, chair embraces you, it wraps around your body. Supporting every curve, every resting muscleo are sinking. Settling this is where you're meant to be perfectly still, perfectly safe. Your head rests the soft back of the chair. Air is now perfectly still. Lavender mist curls around your face. It feels like a warm, gentle dream. Now listen carefully to the roof. Above you, glass dome curves high overhead, and you begin to hear the sound that gives. This place, it's named the sound of stardust falling. It is not rain, it is not hail, it is the softest, most delicate tinkling sound teeny crystalline grains of light are. Settling on the curved glass roof, tinkling softly, gently, repeatedly, 1,000. Tiny bells ringing one scene, then fading into silence, only to be replaced by the next 1,000 tinkle. Tinkle soft and slow, the sound is utterly hypnotic. It is the sound of the universe settling down for a long. Slow rest it is the sound of time whispering. A lullaby, the stardust grains are minute particles of captured ancient light. These slide slowly down the glass, forming faint silver tracks, and as they slide, they create that delicate, repeating, rhythmic sound. Tinkle, tinkle, slow, and lower your eyelids. Feel heavy, heavier than before you settle further into the velvet chair. There holds you secure and warm. The lavender mist breathes around you. Inhale. The scent of lavender and peaceaks held the last lingering thoughts of the day. Now you look at the plants. They are the reason for the stardust greenhouse. If these are not ordinary plants, they are the flora of the quiet cosmos. To your left stands the great lunar bloom. Its leaves are broad and pale white. They are shaped like perfect crescent moon sand. They glow with a deep, slow, rhythmic pulse. Flow is not sharp. It is soft like the surface of fresh milk. Pulse slow, steady. Lunar bloom is inhaling the mist and exhaling pure tranquility. Its petals are vast like shimmering bowls. They are tipped with tiny beads of liquid silver. These silver beads never fall. They simply hang suspended, catching the starlight, tinkling on the roof. Watch the edges of the lunar bloom, the fringed with the faintest halo of blue like this blue light. Soothing, calming, deep. It reminds you of the deepest depths of the velvet chair. You rest in every vein on every white leaf is illuminated like a tiny map of hidden pathways to sleep. The lunar bloom stands perfectly still. It is waiting for you to slow your own inner rhythm to match its gentle pulse slow and soft. Your eyes drift now toward the center of the greenhouse where the comet vines ascend toward the curved glass. Comet vines are not green. Quantified everything must be noted down with precision. Settle in beside him, no breathing in the dry, dusty smell of stored harvest and old wood. Atmosphere here is cool, darker than the bright courtyard's soothing sensory shift afternoon. Task is inventory reconciliation, calm the physical stocks held in the state. Granaries and warehouse against the records that detail what was expected and what has been paid in. Tax it is a task of counting. Counting and correcting the slight deviations that always occur. Master Lin pulls forward a stack of bamboo slips. These slips are thin and smooth, held together by tightly woven hemp. Cords rattle gently, a dry, woody sound as he organizes them. The official takes up his brush, dipping the tip into the stone ink well where the ink is already viscous and deep black. The smell of the grinding stone and the pine soot ink is comforting and old. Brush begins its slow journey across the prepared bamboo surface, tracing characters that denote bushels of wheat and measures of coarse silk. Must verify the incoming shipments of grain being the bedrock of Han stability. Slips detail the tax paid by 3 distinct villages along the Yellow River tributary village of the Crooked Pines village of the Silent Fisherman village of the Long Shadow Siege village sends its allotted amount of millet, rice, and soybeans. Master Lin runs his finger down the tally column, listening to the soft friction sound of his skin moving over the dried bamboo. Grain counts the strokes for the quantity paid. 2,700 sheaves of dry millet from Crooked Pines. The record is checked against the physical tally sticks delivered by the granary manager earlier. Sticks are bundles of thin wood notch, deeply notch, represents 10 unit takes. the bundle of sticks and lays them on the Mathis hands, moves slowly, deliberately counting the Nakshasone. Bundle 10. 20, 30, another bundle, counting the deep clean cuts in the wood 56 die. Weight of the wood is comforting in his hand solid evidence of the harvest. Sound of the sticks. Clacking softly against the polished wood flora. Gentle, dull, repetitive sound counting the sheaves, counting the tallies, comparing. The ink to the wood, the focus must be absolute to prevent numerical error, for even a single bushel misplaced could lead to famine or rebellion in the long. Turntus is the gravity of the work, hidden within the tedious rhythm verifies the tally. For village of the silent fishermen, paid in soybeans, dark, hard-dried beans that hold their measure of wealth. Record shows 5,000 measures, Master Lin. Pulls the accompanying inventory report. This report is written on a heavier piece of silk. Parper luxury reserved for summary documents, silk is slightly rough beneath his palm, but holds the ink perfectly. Verifies the character for 5,000 and the character for soybeans. Light filtering in through the paper windows is soft. Yellow now illuminating the tiny fibers of the silk paper. The silence is profound. Hears only the soft scrape of his fingernail tracing the line of text and the slow, steady rhythm of his own breathing in. And out verifying the count, verifying. The measure ensuring the numbers align the weight of the tally sticks is precisely balanced against the light. Feel of the scroll, weight of the physical world meeting the abstraction of the written low after the grain. Verification, Master Lin moves. To the silk inventory, silk is the currency of high value, marker of status and trade, extending far into the western deserts. Administration must track every single bolt, every length, every shadia. Separate stack of bamboo slips is retrieved with this. Slips feel smoother, thinner, perhaps because they deal with a finer products. Sound of the slips is higher pitched, a soft woody chimney. Begins reviewing the incoming tax payment from the silk weaver's guilty pay in finished bolts of plain undyed. Silk each bolt must be precisely 50 chi, long 50 chi, the standard measure. Master. Lin calls for his apprentice, a young man named Jia enters. The room quietly, his steps barely audible on the packed earth floor. Jia carries a measuring tape made of braided leather and small bronze markers, unrolls the tape slowly on the floor. Leather smells faintly of animal hide and dried dust. Master. Lin takes the first inventory slip. It denotes 5 bolts of raw silk from the eastern workshop. Verifies. The numerical character 5 Jia retrieves the first bolt from the covered storage. Chest silk rustles, as it is liftetta. Beautiful, soft, delicate sound that contrasts sharply with the clack of the grain tallies. The color is off-white, creamy slightly. Rougher than finished garments, Master Lin touches. The edge of the bolt feeling, the texture, the tightness of the weave. The consistency of the thread sit is satisfying work for the hands. Jia begins to unroll the bolt slowly across the floor. Silk. Pulls gently like liquid light. Master Lin watches the bronze markers on the measuring tape. Jia calls out the chi measurements as they pass in chi 20 chi, 30 chi. The apprentice's voice is low and measured, designed not to break the calm silence. Master Lin watches the precise point where the silk ensit measures 49 chi and 9. Feeling a slight shortfall, takes his brush and dips it into the ink. Movement is slow, deliberating. Notes the discrepancy on the bamboo sleepa single small character. Next is number 5, indicating a minor deficit. This record will be used later when the Weaver's Guild accounts are finalized. Meticulousness is the point, slow, deep concentration required to notice the difference between 50 and 40. 9 and 9, heat of the day, helps enforce this stillness. There are no sudden movements, no sharp noises, just the slow, methodical unwinding of the thread of the Empire Jia. Repeats the process with the second bolt owling the silk, listening to the delicate hiss of the material sliding over the floor. Mats like catches. The natural sheen of the fiber 20 chi 30 chi. This bolt is exactly 50. Tea Master Lin draws a clean circle next to the entry on the slip, indicating verification and approval process continues bolt after bolt after bolt. Repetition is the comfort assurance that every piece of the vast hand administration is being checked and measured. Accounted for and recorded, ink dries quickly on the bamboo, leaving a permanent dark record of the day's transactions. Faint scent of the silk mingles with the dusty smell of the stored grain, a quiet perfume of productivity. Master Lin closes his eyes for a moment, hallowing the image of the neatly stacked tallied sticks, and the organized bolts of silk to fill his mind-structured order stability. Sounds of the office now are perfectly hypnotic. Gentle scrape of the brush, distant faint movement of dust, and the Ergia's soft footsteps. As he moves the next bolt into position, slow turning of the leather measuring tape 20 chi, 30 chi, 40. Chith, quiet whisper of the silk itself. A vast, soft inventory of the afternoon, wasting deeper into the silence, now eluding the methodical. Certainty of the Han bureaucracy wash over used to slow administration, this endless counting things. Dedication to the ledger above all outside is the engine of the ancient world, slowly turning, reliably drawing. You deeper into rest you need only. Listen to the sound of the counts being finalized, sound of the brush dipping and lifting, soft friction of the bamboo slips being arranged and rearranged. Soothing rhythm of meticulous ancient work counting the measures, tallying the totals, verifying the quality. Afternoon stretches out long and key at a time for deep focus and deep relaxation, just the sound of the counting. Now counting. The light outside now carries a certain weight, a golden heavy quality it tells. U.S. that the zenith has passed, that the hours are settling towards their inevitable close. We leave the heat and the immediate activity of the fields where the rice stalks sway in the faint breeze. We move instead into the quiet shade of the bureaucratic complex, the sea of calculated tedium. This is the heart of the tedious empire, the slow pulse of central calculation, the rustle of dried bamboo slips awaiting the patient brush of the scribe. Feel the air cool slightly as we enter this chamber dedicated solely to the endless flow of data. And the Han Dynasty life is governed by lists of names, lists of taxes, lists of harvests, lists of men eligible for conscription, lists of women capable of weaving fine silk. Every single detail must be recorded and transcribed onto those narrow slats of bamboo. Imagine the sheer volume of record. Keeping required to manage an empire stretching from the Yellow River to the distant sands of the western regions. The work is not exciting, it is slow, deliberate, steady. The clerks sit cross-legged on low mats, their backs bowed over their duties. The only sound is the delicate scraping sound of the brush, dipping into the inkstone. Listen closely. The ink is made of soot and animal glue, ground patiently on. The stone, the brush, is tipped with fine animal hair, moving with practiced ease across the polished wooden slips. They are recording the movement of rice, the movement of coin, the movement of people. Every single entry is a small weight placed on the scales of history, a tiny piece of the greater Han puzzle. Think of the repetition. The same character is written hundreds of times a day. The character for grain, the character for tax, the character for male adult. The movement of the hand becomes truly hypnotic, a continuous flowing motion requiring absolute stillness of mind. If you watch long enough, your own thoughts begin to mimic the steady rhythm of the script. The shadows lengthen, stretching the figures across the floor. The scribe must ensure absolute accuracy, because a mistake here means potential instability. There a lack of grain somewhere else. Is the heavy burden of the tedious record keeper a life measured not? In perfectly aligned columns of calligraphy, the smell of aging bamboo and wet ink is heavy and deeply calming. It is the smell of quiet discipline and administrative routine. Let us move now from the silence of the census office to the soft rhythmic sound of industry. We follow the required flow of the silk tax, a contribution that kept the Han state wealthy and perpetually connected to the distant Roman West. The process of making silk is perhaps the most repetitive and time-consuming activity in all of Han daily life, is a task delegated entirely to the women of the household, a source of profound domestic labor. Enter the weaving sheds where the natural light is carefully controlled so as not to damage the delicate threads. The air is warm, humid, almost heavy with the faint scent of boiled cocoons and natural dye. Looms themselves are simple but imposing structures requiring immense concentration. Thud, clack, shuffle. Thud, clack, shuffle. The heavy wooden shuttle passes back and forth across the taut warp threads. Each pass interlocks the threads, locking the luxury into place. Think of the hundreds of thousands of individual passes needed to create one single bolt of patterned brocade suitable for quartet. Is endless patient work. The weaver sits there sometimes for 15 hours, A day her feet working the treadles, her hands guiding the shuttle. Her eyes focused intensely on the intricate pattern emerging from the chaos of thread. The rhythm is slow and deep, a true lullaby of labor, thud, clack, shuffle. The sound repeats itself perfectly, without variation, without haste. It does not rush, it does not change its reliable pace. The sound is steady, like a persistent, quiet heartbeat that only slows when the sun finally sinks below the horizon. Imagine the dedication required to maintain this pace for months on end, creating the heavy satin robes for the emperor or the sheer gossamer silk needed for export along the great trade route. The threads themselves are unbelievably fine, spun from the cocoons of the hardworking silk worms. These worms demand constant attention. They eat tirelessly, they spin diligently, and then they offer up their priceless gift of fiber. The transformation from moth, egg to finished garment is a profound act of profound human patience. Feel the sound wash over you, the constant motion, the steady, deliberate pace of human effort transforming nature into commerce. The colors in the shed are muted soft yellows, deep reds, earthy browns, dyes, extracted slowly, painstakingly from roots and berries and minerals. Careful selection of color that tells a silent story of status and region. Weaver knows every single thread, every knot, every potential flaw. Her concentration must be absolute, because a momentary lapse will mean hours of undoing and repairing the intricate. Pattern, thud, clack, shuffle. The loom sounds its ancient song of industry, a song of repetition and quiet. Strengthfully move slowly through the aisles. The weaving shed, watching the heads bow in focused concentration. The dust motes dance in the fading shafts of late afternoon light caught between the threads. This steady, reliable hum of activity reminds us that the Han Dynasty relies entirely on this endless patient labor, from the scribe tracing characters in the silent administrative office to the weaver throwing the shuttle, and the humid shed life moves slowly, deliberately, repetitively. Han Day is much like the one before. Every motion is practiced and perfected. There is deep comfort in this certainty, this absolute lack of surprise, this dependable rhythm. We let the sound of the loom blend now with the image of the silent scribe, a duality of quiet human effort that built the mighty enduring empire. Thud, clack, shuffle. The light outside is now soft muted gold. The day is sinking gently away. Drift with it into the deepening quiet, the slow, careful movement of the Han world continues its inexorable pace. We rest in the rhythm of their ancient routine. We rest in the sound of their soft industry. We rest. The repetition holds us steady and safe. Thud, clack, shuffle. The breath slows completely. The mind quiets completely, drifting deeper into the tedious, reliable rhythm of the dependable Han Day. We leave the soft, intimate glow of the Han household, now the gentle warmth of the brazier, the fading scent of millet porridge, and turn our minds toward the broader vastness, the true monumental scale of the Han world, stretching far, far beyond the comforting shelter of the courtyard walls. The empire's immense, sleeping giant of mountains, rivers, deserts, and plains connected by thin, invisible threads of commerce, and command threads that require tedious travel and relentless maintenance. We focus on the roads, now the imperial roads, those dusty ribbons of packed earth linking the capital, Chang'an, to the far-flung corners, the distant administrative centers, the critical defensive borders. These roads were the nervous system of the Han state, but they carried information and goods at a pace we modern souls can barely comprehend. A slowness that settles the mind, a quiet rhythm dictated only by the strength of an ox, the endurance of a pony, the measured, deliberate pace of a human footstep. Listen closely to the sound of distance itself, the quiet hum of the night air absorbing the echoes of travel. Roads were not built for speed, they were built for endurance, for the slow, steady transmission of authority, the glacial movement of heavy grain carts, the precious silk bales, wrapped tight against the ever-present dust. Imagine a single cart, a heavy wooden frame, carrying essential bronze tools or perhaps tax receipts, moving slowly westward toward the Jade Gate, the gateway to the legendary western regions. The cartwheels are solid wood bound with iron, perhaps moving over terrain that varies from the hard-baked lowest plateau to the shifting sands of the Taklamakan periphery. Hear the sound, the rhythmic creak of the wooden axle turning, a complaint of friction against the dry air, a repetition that lulls the tired mind. Creak Turn creak turn the sound repeats every 4 seconds, every 6 seconds, an auditory metronome, marking the tedious passage of miles and days. The driver, perhaps a simple farmer pressed into corvée labor, or a dedicated caravan guard, walks alongside the beast of burden, breathing the dust exhaled by the slow-moving hooves. He knows. The road is long. He knows the destination is weeks away, perhaps months, and in the Han world, this was the expected pace, this deep abiding respect for physical distance and the time required to traverse. There is no rush, there is only the inevitable slow approach of the horizon, the relentless repetition of the road beneath the weary feet. The empire communicated through these routes through a network of post stations, carefully spaced every 10 or 20 Han li, depending on the terrain and the urgency of the message. The messages themselves were scrolls, bamboo slips, or perhaps lacquer tablets, carried by relays of swift runners, or often by horseback messengers dedicated to the fastest speeds possible within the constraints of gravity and terrain. But even the fastest hand messenger was a creature of slowness compared to our instant signals today. Vital military order from the capital to the extreme western frontier might take 2 months to arrive at slow unfolding of time and effort, where every day of travel represented a significant gap in real-time knowledge. Imagine lone runner, a post courier, moving through the night, perhaps utilizing the coolest hours for travel, his leather sandals slapping gently against the packed earth, a steady sound of effort and distance. Lap stride, flap stride. The rhythm settles into your consciousness, defining the sheer scale of the space he must cross before passing his urgent burden to the next tired waiting man. The communication network was an extraordinary feat of organization, but its execution was tediously slow, a constant battle against physical barriers and the simple friction of movement. The Silk Road itself was the longest, most profound illustration of this Han slowness. It was not a single highway, but a shifting network of caravan trails stretching thousands of miles beyond the western deserts. A slow-moving river of trade and culture that took years to complete a single circuit. Think of the goods moving along this great slow path, bales of exquisite Han silk, so precious, so light, yet carrying such great monetary weight, moving outward toward the Roman West, and coming inward the steady supply of horses of rare furs of jade and glass, each item traveling for months or seasons or even years, carried across vast landscapes where human life was sparse and the silence overwhelming. The only sound on the vast stretches of the Gobi edge was often the wind itself, whistling low over the scrub, whistling across the dunes, a deep sustained sound of emptiness and patience, the creaking of the cart wheel, the heavy breathing of the camel, the soft shuffle of many feet across the gravel, the wind, the wind, the wind. Those were the hypnotic, endless sounds of Han trade. The officials who governed the empire, the commandants, who managed the frontier garrisons, they lived their lives in anticipation of the slow arrival of news or orders. A governor appointed to a far southern province might spend 6 months simply traveling to his post, 6 months on the road, watching the landscape slowly change, watching the dialects shift, feeling the climate alter with every tedious league. Once there, his communication back to Chang'an would be equally slow, creating a lag, a temporal gulf between intention and reality. This enforced slowness, this certainty of delay, colored every decision, every interaction of the Han state. It necessitated vast patience, a deep meditative acceptance of the time required for any action to take effect across the sprawling geography. Let us rest in the sound of the Han Road, now the gentle rhythmic turning of a single cart, wheel moving forever slowly under a distant ancient moon. The sound approaches softly, fades slowly, then repeats itself endlessly across the sleeping landscape. A repetitive, comforting sound of steady progress. Not swift progress, but relentless progress, moving across the centuries, moving across the land. Dust rises gently around the wheels, a fine soft powder that covers everything, unifying the landscape. The travelers, the cargo, in a monochrome blanket of ancient earth. Dust settles on the silk, dust settles on the faces, dust settles on the official documents, waiting patiently for the next stage of the slow tedious journey, we are embracing the sense of distance now, the deep awareness of how far away everything was. How much time separated intent from execution, and how quietly, slowly this separation was overcome day after patient day. The sheer magnitude of the effort, the countless hours of human and animal labor expended simply to connect this massive sleeping empire is humbling. Every footstep was a commitment, every road a testament. To enduring slowness, listen to the echo of that ancient patience, the sound of the distance being slowly, systematically conquered by the measured pace of the Han traveler, the creak of the wood, the shuffle of the feet, the low wind across the wide plains whispering the same slow, silent stories of travel and waiting. We feel the hypnotic quality of the long, slow journey, the miles stretching out before us like an unrolled scroll of plain silk, ready to receive the ink of our dreams. The road continues winding, gently drawing us deeper into the night, deeper into the silence of the ancient world. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of dry grasses and distant cooking fires, a comforting reminder that even in the vastness of the journey, there's always a post station or a small farming village ahead, though it is many hours of slow travel away. Rhythmic sound of the cartwheels continues its gentle, insistent pace, a slow rocking motion for the mind, a constant steady presence in the immense, Handark. We allow this deep sense of slow movement, this understanding of scale and distance, to settle our restless thoughts, to quiet the anxieties of our modern, rapid-paced world. We are moving at the Han pace now, slowly, deliberately, patiently, toward a peaceful, undisturbed sleep. The dust settles, the wind stills, the road becomes softer beneath the traveler's weary feet, and the slow, steady sound of the Han world preparing for dawn is still hours distant. Rest now in the timeless silence of the ancient imperial highway, the quiet repetition of the necessary slow passage across the land. Let the gentle hypnotic sound of the turning wheel guide you further down into your own quiet darkness, further into your deep restorative rest. And so we gently leave the cold stone of the courtyard, leave the ghostly remnants of the evening meal. Last glow of the brazier is dying down, a sigh of smoke rising slowly through the tiled roof, a quiet release of the day's heat, and we move deeper into the Han night. This is the time for settling, time when the body finally accepts its heaviness. Enter the inner chamber, room where the Han family will sleep. Air is different, hair thicker, warmer, holding the scent of oil and dry mats. Light is now barely a suggestion. A single small clay lamp burns with a thread of flame washing the walls in soft, lingering shadows. These shadows are slow moving. They mimic the dragging pace of the entire dynasty. Are not scary shadows. They're lulling shadows. They're the soft blackness that commies. After a long, hard day of endless manual labor or endless administrative waiting, listening closely now, sounds of the night have changed their character. Chirp of the cricket has become a slow rhythm, a gentle stitch in the fabric of silence. Dogs in the distance bark with less urgency. They are tired too, and the watchman's drumbeat is muffled, now lost behind walls and over roofs tucked tuka deep. Slow pulse accounting the hours until the morning bells. But for now, we only count the breaths begin. The ritual of undressing, daily layering of robes and tunics must be carefully removed. This is not a rushed act. Every fold of fabric, every knot, every taille unraveled with deliberate slowness. Outer robe, heavy linen, perhaps coarse ramy drops to the floor. With a soft tuta, small puff of dust rises and settles immediately, the weight of the day falling away from the shoulders. Inner layer, soft like cotton, or perhaps rough hem, feels cool against the skin that was warmed by the daylight sun, or left in simple undershirt. Body barely recognizing its freedom from restraint. Movement of the limbs becomes fluid as the heavy hierarchy of clothing is set as it is. The robes are folded neat-like. Han person is meticulous, even exhaustion order is the key to survival. Order is the way to keep the tax collector from asking twice the order. Is the small comfort in a vast, unruly empire return our attention to the sleeping platform. Kang, if we are in the north, warmed by the fire pit or simple woven mats laid directly on the earthen floor. If we are in the south, where the air remains the mutagen, the texture of the mat beneath the woven bamboo or rushesa, slightly rough surface that scratches softly a sound that is itself a lullaby, a sound of nature harnessed for human rest. Pillow is not soft feather down, it is firm. IT is often wood or carved ceramic, not for comfort, yes. We understand it, but for support and to keep the elaborate hairstyles intact, think of the cool, hard surface of a ceramic. Pillow against the back of the neck, it absorbs the last remaining heat of the day. It offers a constant, gentle pressure grounding. Weight that keeps the head still, a quiet anchor against the drifting thoughts of the mind. Lie down on the mat. Body sinks. Slight light muscles tight from hours of bending or hauling begin. To loosen their grip, the spine relaxes its guard feel. The weight of your own legs and arms are heavy loads, now accepting their rest. Blanket is pulled up gently, perhaps a thick quilt stuffed. With old cotton fiber, sir, perhaps just a simple throw of wool, depending on the season's weight of IT. Is reassuring a barrier against the cooling air of the night. The moonlight may filter a thin sliver of silver dust through. The paper window sill casts ghostly patterns on the ceiling beams. Know the final act of the day, extinguishing the oil lamp. A hand person lifts a finger and pinches the flame ear, perhaps gently dips the wick into the oil, a soft sizzle, a whisper of darkness, and then the light is gone. But not absent eyes, adjust slowly toward the pitch black, and the world is reduced to sound and sensation, where in the Han darkness, a darkness deeper than modern life, allows the silence undisturbed by electricity or traffic. Is a silence that demands attention. It asks you to listen to your own heartbeat. It asks you to hear the blood rushing in your ears. And what do we think about in this ancient darkness? The farmer thinks about tomorrow's rain, critical need for the water to nourish the grain, calculates the surplus he hopes to achieveth, small margin between survival and starvation. Is breathing as even and deep breath of a man who worked his body to the bone. A scholar official thinks of the next day's edict, recites passages from Confucius, a gentle repetition of moral duty, words the ancient characters float. In his mind, like soft clouds, a cultivation of NRPC, a methodical attempt to silence the chatter of ambition and fervor. Mother thinks of her children, small breaths they take. In the mat beside her, listens for the signs of health, evenness. Of their respiration, she feels the warmth of their bodies, near be a constant, quiet assurance of life, the simplest, most profound. Comfort in the Han world, daily life of the Han Dynasty, was a methodical, slow, repetitive cycle of awakening labor. Eating and sleeping in this moment of sleep preparation, recognize. The beauty of the routine, power of the monotony is the repetition that allows the mind to rest. It is the tediousness. That becomes our sanctuary behind the gentle smell of dry earth and the faint aroma of cooking oil that lingers. Walls are mud brick or stamped earthy, are thick they keep. The outside world at Beatty, hold in the small bubble of warmth and safety, are trapped between two major dynasties. Han period was long for centuries of enduring the same problems, taxes, the floods, the corruption, the wars, but tonight none of that matters. Tonight we are only concerned with the act of sleeping, a recharge for the inevitable challenges of the morrow year. Own breathing is slowing down, matching the pace of the Han farmer, matching the slow drumbeat of the night watchman in Outtoden. Deep, slow exchange with the silent earth stresses of your own modern day screens the noise, the speed the hour. Distant echo essay cannot penetrate the mud brick walls of this ancient chamber. We are drifting further down. 10 person has already begun to slumber. A soft, regular snoring sound might be heard, a gentle rasping. Rhythm from across the room, a sound of true exhaustion of the body finally surrendering its control. Wooden beams above us are quietly have settled for the night. Movement of the air is slight. A faint draft from under the door, sighing softly. Temperature is perfectly balanced. For rest cool enough to feel the blankets, weight warm enough to feel safe, and enveloped spend these final moments of a hand night listening. To the silence itself, absence of artificial sound is profounded, is a vast, unbroken canvas of quietude occasionally, interrupted by a tiny natural sound, the rustle of a mouse in the walsa, soft hushing sound of wind moving through the bamboo grove. Outsideth, deep rumble of thunder miles away. If a storm is brewing, each sound is a reminder of the natural world. Unceasing, honoring cycles of ancient China day becomes night labor, becomes rest with, have completed. The cycle of the tedious Han day, and now we embrace the tedious Han night. The process of falling asleep is itself a laborious, gentle, persistent effort to let go. We're in the deepest preparation stage now. Final steps before the true slumbereth. Muscles are nitrogen monoxide, longer, clenched. Jaw is lucid. Eyelids are heavy dragging. Downward a final settlement into the woven mata, final acceptance of the cool ceramic pillow. Last of the wakeful thoughts are fading like smoke from a dying hearth. We're ready now to enter the dream world of the Han Dynasty world, perhaps simple. Legion saw a field of ripe rice, waiting for harvest a scroll of ancient text, easily decipherate a simple, uncomplicated wish for good fortune. This is the quiet ease that follows the hardship. This is the reward for the endurance of the day. Gentle weight of the blanket presses down, slightly a comforting. Embrace, feel the earth beneath you, feel the history beneath you. Millions of Han people who lay down exactly as you are, now in these simple rooms under these starlit skies, breathing the same air of ancient China. They sought the same escape from the daily grin. They found IT in this quiet darkness. Let the last rustle of the mat be the final sound. Let the last wisp of oil smoke be the last scently US. Drift deeper into the Han night where the only remaining task is rested deep and unbroken rested. Truly Han lullaby of quiet endurancy. We leave the endless slow movement of the water clock now. We leave the persistent shadow cast by the paper lantern. We leave the careful counting of the harvest yields and the meticulous, slow, tedious brush strokes of the tax scribe. The journey through the long, persistent days of the Han Dynasty is drawing to its quiet end. Great empire sleeps now under the deep velvet blanket of this celestial vault. Listen only to the stillness that remains after the history fades. The persistent drumming of the watchman's stick has softened into a whisper, a gentle tap far away, far out of your hearing. The slow rhythmic breathing of the entire sleeping civilization settles the airfield, that ancient quietude, that profound absence of urgency. Settle upon your own shoulders, upon your heavy eyelids. Let the weight of the dynasties, the weight of the census scrolls, the weight of the bronze mirrors fade into nothingness. There is only the soft dark, a profound enveloping tranquility. We learned of their routines, their daily struggles, their enduring patience, and now we take that enduring patience and we apply it to our own need for rest, a deep restorative surrender to the quiet power of sleep. Let the slow turning earth of the Han fields be your final image. Slow, steady, quiet, enduring peace, 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 peace. Long night stretches out before you, a gift of undisturbed darkness. The air is still, the world outside is hushed. The history is contained and archived far away. You are in your sanctuary, your place of deepest comfort. Your muscles release their final tension. Your jaw unclenches, your shoulders fall away from your ears. Deep breath and soft exhale. Deep breath and slow breath out. Let the rhythm of your own natural breathing become the final lullaby, steady, consistent, calming like the slow, persistent flow of the yellow river moving steadily, steadily towards the sea, towards the endless deep sea drift. With that flow, drift with the gentle, persistent current. The heavy stone gates of the Han capital are closed for the night. No alarm calls out, no urgent decree disturbs the slumber, only the sound of the wind through the eaves of the palace roof. A soft soothing moan, a hush of the night sleep. Now surrender completely to the moment. Feel the softness beneath you, the warmth around you, the safety that holds you here and now. The mundane, persistent tedium of the Han routines, the repetition of their days, the slowness of their lives become the anchor for your own deepest rest, a slow, calming, thoughtless anchor rest. Deeply rest completely. We have walked the slow, dusty roads together. We have heard the silent prayers of the peasants. We have witnessed the heavy diligence of the scholars. And now we release it all. We let the centuries dissolve. We let the meticulous detail of the ancient past give way to the profound, simple rest of the present moment. Deep, deep, deep rest. I am your host, Nasrullah. From Historia Lububane, I thank you sincerely for letting the ancient quietude of the Han Dynasty guide you towards sleep tonight. May your thoughts be gentle, your dreams be peaceful, and your sleep be restorative, complete, and profoundly deep. May the stillness of the sleeping empire settle around you like the softest silk blanket. Sleep Now know that you are safe, know that you are protected, know that the long sleep awaits. May the silence of the Great Wall at midnight wrap itself gently around your consciousness. May the slow, steady, enduring rhythm of the ancient world carry you far, far away. Good night, sleep. Well, sleep. Truly well. The enduring silence of Han China is your comfort. Now, sleep, sleep. Deeply. Rest now, rest well, deep, peaceful. Comforting slumber. Good night.